Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here at my talk. I promise I'll make this super interesting for you, and I hope that you will learn something from this. So as she was saying, why should I be here standing in front of you? Well, I have built teams from 0 to 1, fully remote, and also 0 to millions of revenue. Our team at the moment is 170 people plus, and we have 100% retention. No one has quit yet. So I know a thing or two about how to attract the best talent in the world. I'm going to start with a really fun slide for you. How many of you have been to Burning Man? Show of hands. 1, 2, 3. OK, great. So you know what this social experiment is about. I want to talk about Burning Man because this was one of the most transformative events in my life. And the reason this was so transformative is because it helps people to transcend borders within the self and really connect to other humans. And this is a very important quality to cultivate as we end this pandemic as well as the war, hopefully soon. Now, the other life-changing event for me was remote work. I discovered remote work in the late 2000s when I finished college and I was told I had to go to a job, stay 8 hours in a cubicle, drive an hour to get there, an hour to get back. It just didn't make sense for me. So I was like, why would anyone do this? So I got a job at a startup, and I convinced my boss to let me work from Paris for a summer. And that worked so well that I ended up going to more than 80 countries in the world. And today, to this day, I live my life from all over the world with 2 kids and my husband, and we travel from country to country, and we live life on our terms. Now, how many of you work remotely today? Just a show of hands. OK. And how many of you would like to work remotely? OK, there's a few people. OK, great. Now, speaking of Google Trends and this search term, remote work, hit an all-time high just recently. And this is pretty big, because compared to 2021, that number is up by 262%. And not only that, but remote work from anywhere is up, and that's 556%. So people don't want to just work remotely from home. They want to work remotely when they want, where they want. Why do I think remote work is the future? Well, there were 3 eras of the internet. The first 2 we already know. So the first one, information was available everywhere, mostly free. Think of maps, translation. Era 2 is social media. And keyword here is social. So think about your friends on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any other social platform that's blurred the lines between your friends in real life. Now, era 3 is remote work and decentralization. This is huge, and many people don't really realize it. That's why they're making people go back to the office. But I promise you, this will be bigger than anything we've seen so far. And you know, the 40-hour work week is literally 100 years old. So we have to innovate. We have to do better than this. This is something that was built hundreds of years ago. And here's what drove adoption of remote work. You know, we have the high-speed internet. There is cheap travel. You know, EasyJet, Ryanair. We can travel wherever we want. There are communication tools like Zoom and TeamFlow where we can meet with our teams. And there's skilled global workforce. And people want to continue working remotely. When you ask them, 2/3 of them want to stay remote, and 1/3 is willing to quit their job if they make them go back to the office. And we saw this with the Great Resignation, you know, in the US and everywhere, where people were like, I'm not going back to the office, I'm quitting. Of course, now things are tightening up a bit because of the economy. However, once the economy does well again and the stock markets go up, we'll see another wave of people quitting if they're not given the flexibility that they want in their lives. So what are the benefits of hiring remotely? In our experience, we work with many, many companies. We have seen these 5 benefits. The main one you'll see at the center is that you'll find the best person for the job. What that means is that before, you would put up an ad for a job, and you could only hire people within a 30-mile radius. So basically, that was the best person, was whoever was the closest within that vicinity. Now, that person could be anywhere. They could be in Timbuktu, and that could be the best person, actually. You want diversity of points of view. So we talk about diversity and inclusion a lot. When we're building global companies, and I know about building companies because I built one at Y Combinator, they tell us to build things that people want. So we have to make sure that we're building a company that globally people will want. And if those people are not represented at the table, then how are we building a company that will be big enough for global reach? You can attract and retain the best talent. As I mentioned before, the best talent wants to do what they want, and they want to work flexibly, and they want to work from wherever that is. Access to a bigger talent pool. You can hire anyone from Albania to Zimbabwe. So really, the world is your oyster. And the last one, which is huge, is hedging business risk. We saw with the war, with the pandemic, and more crises that will come about, that having everyone in one location doesn't make sense. Because when the next crisis comes, and if you're not distributed, then you will put your business at risk. So actually, what is the competitive advantage of hiring remotely? It is that business continuity. It is the ability that you will be able to have a thriving business if you have people distributed everywhere. At SafetyWing, we are in 52 different locations, so our business is not as at risk if the other crisis comes about. So what are the challenges of hiring remotely? They're working different time zones, loss of connection, culture, as well as trust. We see these problems all the time, and we talk about them on webinars that I host every month. We have anywhere from 300 people joining and 200 people watching them live afterwards. So many companies are worried about these three things. So to combat the first one, working across different time zones, if you have people in the different continents, you want to make sure that you have really good documentation. We use Notion for a lot of our things, anything from our mission, vision, values, how we do things, how to be successful at SafetyWing. Everything is there, all of our projects, all of the teams. So everything you need to know about the company is all documented. And for a remote-first company, this is super important. That connection and culture. We are very careful on how we design our culture. We make sure that we hire people that are aligned with our mission and vision, and that helps us build a really great culture. We also meet in really fun destinations like Slovenia, Bali, Tulum, and we have these connections in person at least 4 times a year. The last one is trust. When you first come to SafetyWing, we give you trust. So that trust is given automatically because we believe that we hire you for a reason. And this trust is huge because it helps you succeed in the company. When we are checking on people and seeing, did they reply to my Slack message within minutes? Did they do this? It's really not conducive to a great culture. So we really make sure that we build a culture and bring those people that align with us, because then we don't have to manage them. But remote work is not enough. We're seeing all these really interesting benefits that companies are offering, anywhere from Uber Eats to like an Upwork budget, so you can hire people to do some tasks that are not strategic, to plan subscriptions, and all this other list goes on. So you'll hear people say, hey, we want more benefits. Now, what I advise founders as well as company leaders is to really talk with your team, ask them, what do they want? Have a meeting every 6 months and see whether the benefits that you're offering make sense for them. So what tools do you need to be successful? Here are some companies that help you to hire remotely. These are our partners. You can check them out when you can. But also I want to mention one thing that comes up over and over again. You know, people come to us and say, hey, I have this distributed workforce. I have people working from everywhere, but I need to provide them health insurance. How do I do that? In the past, this was really difficult. You had to go country by country. You had to figure out what health insurance is in each country. You have to figure out separate invoices, separate plans, as well as different currencies. At SafetyWing, we solved this. We made one plan, one price, and one dashboard. So people can go on, they can add and remove people wherever they are in the world, 180 countries. And we are building the future, this global social safety net, including health insurance, remote retirement, life and disability insurance, income protection, maternity and paternity leave. This is amazing because this doesn't exist for the global workforce, and we are building it. So I think it's pretty cool. To end my speech here, and I'm going to have plenty of time for questions, people didn't wake up one day wanting flexibility. They woke up one day, and we had the tools to be flexible. To think that work wouldn't change is crazy. To think that it won't continue to change is crazier. Thank you so much. If you guys want to connect with us, please find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active there, happy to connect with all of you. And yeah, follow us in our journey. This is part of our team in Slovenia at our team gathering. So I'll take some questions at this time, if you guys have any, in terms of building companies remotely and teams and benefits and traveling the world. I don't know. What are some questions?
Thank you. Let's give it up for Lona.
Thank you.
Yes, we do have some questions. So let's start. How do you deal with the salaries of nomad people? Do you adjust it to the cost of living of the different countries they may be at?
Okay, this is a great question, and we had a whole webinar on this, and a ton of people showed up because it's very important. So the cool thing at SafetyWing is that we decided very early on that we will have equal flat salaries across the board. So we don't take the most expensive one, let's say in San Francisco, or the lowest one, let's say in another country. We kind of take an average, and we say this is what we're going to pay everyone. And it's up to you whether you choose to live in San Francisco and pay a higher cost of living, or you choose to live in Croatia or Bulgaria or Albania or whatever, where the dollar goes further. So this has worked out pretty well for us so far. I can't say that we are, the best or we know exactly what's happening. We chose this way, and it seems to be working. Like, people accept the job offers. They don't leave the company. They don't quit. So something is working, I guess. Yeah, I think make it easy for yourself. This is super easy for founders to do, because if you were to go into all this like AI and data and try to figure out exactly what should I pay for this country, you make it super hard for yourself. So you're going to spend hours figuring out the compensation package for that team member versus making things a bit more simple for yourself.
Okay. And how did you end up at SafetyWing?
Oh.
Yes, somebody's really interested in that. So
that's a good question. So yeah. I was building my own company before this at Y Combinator, which was a platform for women to rent things from each other. That went down to zero when the pandemic hit. And I was like, ooh, need to figure out something else pretty fast. And luckily, Sondre, one of the co-founders and the CEO of the company, reached out to me from the YC network, and he's like, hey, we need help building revenue channels. Can you help us do this? I love the mission. I was super aligned. Obviously, I've been traveling the world for so long. And our vision actually is to be the first country on the internet, to build that country, which is really lofty and out there. And actually, if you guys are interested, that country is called plumia.org. Is the nonprofit arm of SafetyWing. Okay. And the community is building that, and it's incredible, because the idea of that is that it will give you some kind of a passport to prove to a border that you're worth letting in, so you can live and work wherever you want, no matter what passport you're born with. So think about being born with an Indian, an Albanian, and African passport. You can't really work and live wherever you want. Mm-hmm. But if you're a digital nomad and you're making tons of money, why shouldn't you be let in and out of countries? Why can't you live wherever you want? So we want to build this kind of a border pass and help people live their best lives wherever they choose to be, independent or where they were born.
Yes. Now I have a really, really good question, so listen up. How to convince my CEO to prioritize benefits, vacations, and remote work? How do you convince people to do that?
It's really easy. I think it's retention and attraction of talent. So look around you, see what companies are offering. Who is your competition? Are they poaching your talent? And if that's happening in your company, then you know where to point to. The data is pretty clear. You can also show a lot of data, how people want to work remotely, how they want to continue to stay remotely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the CEO, this is one funny fact. Being a CEO, which I was myself as well, you actually are remote. I was traveling the world, I was going to conferences, I was meeting investors, I was in different countries. So why would I make people that are working for me not be remote when I was being remote the whole time? And we have all these CEOs of giant companies, they're never in the office. So why would they say, oh, you have to be back in the office, but I can go and do whatever I want? It's like, no, everyone should be able to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
You trust them to do their work, and if they show the results, you know, why?
Yeah. Who are the CEOs here?
Who are the
Raise your
CEOs?
hands. Good, you did listen to that, right? Yeah, good. Yeah,
It's
okay.
true, right?
Just say.
You're here, you're not in the office.
Yes, another one. How do you adapt with teams in different time zones?
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a great one. What we have done, and it's worked at SafetyWing, is that most people are around the Americas time zone and European and Africa. So those will work out the best to be in this company. If you choose to be in the Asian time zone, we tell you upfront and say that that's going to be hard on you because some of our meetings are going to be when you're supposed to be sleeping. So it's your choice whether you want to sacrifice your nights for a couple days a week that we meet synchronously. So what I would say is choose the time zones that fits most people. At the moment, because we're growing so fast, we're experimenting with 2 different meetings. So for example, one meeting that's in the morning, the strategy meeting, and one that's in the evening so that it can benefit. But then you don't have everyone together. That's a problem. So I would say, yeah, choose the time zone that benefits most of the company, and then the rest, ask them if they can sacrifice 2 hours, maybe Mondays and Thursdays.
Okay. What % of salary budget do you advise to allocate to benefits? I don't know, percent of salary or maybe the overall budget of the company, maybe.
You know, that's a tough one, and it depends on the stage of the company. You can be early stage, you can be a scale-up, you can be a huge company, so it really depends. What I would say, what's more important is asking your people what they want. Because as you build products that people want, you need to build companies that people want to be at. So ask them, what do they want for benefits? They'll give you a list, and then vote on that list. And what are the top 3 that come at the top? Do those things. If they're too expensive, say, hey guys, we really want to do these, but we don't have the budget right now, but we will implement it once we have a bit more in our budget.
Yeah, so we have 20 seconds.
Okay.
What kind of trends do you see in the industry? Can you name trends? It's really hard one, but fast.
Trends, yes, so like, you know, benefits are one of them. I guess, hiring remotely. I see one. Quiet quitting is a big one. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but it's basically people doing minimum work and just kind of like getting by and getting their salary. So you have to be super careful about that. Gen Z is talking about this on TikTok. They're like, I'm quiet quitting, and here's how I'm doing it, doing very minimal work, just getting it done, and then the rest, doing things, which is fine, as long as, some companies are okay with that, but yeah.
Oh, so interesting. We would love to hear you more, but I'm sorry, the time is up. Let's give it up for amazing Lona. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.